So I'm here to talk to you today about the myths of balayage. One thing that was explained to me a long time ago from a student that made total sense was, what is the difference between a foil and a balayage? It's quite simply put like this. A foil to me, if you could imagine, is like that of a photograph. It's very sharp. The lines of it are sharp. So wherever you put that foil, it's very sharp. It's very refined, if you will. But balayage to me is like a watercolor of that photograph. It ultimately puts a filter on that photograph and makes things very soft and seamless. So think with me for a moment. When I weave a piece of hair in foiling and I place my lightener on it, ultimately I am putting that lightener on both sides of that hair, creating the look of what I would call spaghetti or a noodle, something that is round. But in balayage, when I'm painting the ridges of the hair, or I'm identifying the peaks or the valleys, the ebbs or the flows or the ridges of the hair, ultimately I'm pinching that hair together and I'm riding the ridge of that hair, creating a flat line or a ribbon effect into the hair, so that I don't really know where the color started or stopped, and that ribbon is actually flowing seamlessly through that hair. Balayage is like that, more of lasagna. I'm only painting the top surface, not the underneath surface of the hair. And when I land on the ends of balayage and I'm painting on both sides, then I'm creating more strength in my hair color. So it's diffused from the beginning and stronger to the end. Whereas in the foil world, its strength starts at the beginning and stays till the end. So the myth is, what is the difference? Is that to me, a balayage makes the hair look younger and softer and puts the energy in your haircut where it is needed. Another myth that I would like to address is that of lift. Does balayage lift? And the answer is absolutely, it lifts. The pressure of your brush and the mixture of your product with the proper developer is always going to in turn be how much lift that you get. So think with me for just a minute. If I took a foil and I wove it really heavy and I placed my lightener in that foil with a really heavy weave, and I did that on a dark level, say 3 or 4, and I put that under the dryer, and I went to open my foil to check my highlight after, say, 7 or 8 minutes of heat, my hair is going to still be in more of an orange stage. Would you not agree? But if I took that same level of hair that was a 3 or 4 level, and I took that same foil and I wove a very fine weave into my foil, and I placed that into my foil and I placed it under heat for 5 to 8 minutes, and I opened it up, my hair would already have lifted to a beautiful stage. The reason why I explain that is, to my student, they know that in the foiling world, but they haven't quite understood that in the balayage world. The pressure of my brush, the brush stroke, the adhering of the clay to the hair, the amount of hair that I paint at the same time, all truly determines the amount of lift that I am going to get. You know, sometimes it gets a bad name, and I want to make sure that it doesn't, that a lot of time it's just user error. So another myth I'd like to talk about is the timing that it takes to paint a balayage. Sometimes I hear, or I've read articles that say that it takes 2 and 3 hours to do a balayage, to a foil that takes 30 to 45 minutes to an hour, and I completely disagree with that. I think that what we have to understand is what not to paint. Far too often in foiling, we just pack the head with foils all over the head. So when we come over to the Bali world, we think that we need to paint more hair to get greater blonde. But based on how the color is placed in the hair, I think that is truly a myth. The efficiencies of painting hair is so much faster. For instance, short hair should take you anywhere from 5, 6, 7 to 10, 11 minutes to paint. Medium hair should take you anywhere from 10 to 18 minutes to paint. Longer hair might take you anywhere from 18 to 25 minutes to paint. So really, ultimately, your goal is that your efficiency of balayage is really less than 30 minutes for any head that you paint. So right there, you've given yourself a raise behind the chair. Another myth is whether foil or balayage is who is greener. And I would say to you that balayage is much greener than the foil. The reason is the type of fossil fuel that it takes to create a foil is far greater than what it takes to create the Balay wrap, for instance. And also, a foil is not recyclable if you do not clean it off. And when I take foils out of the hair, I have a stack of foils. The carbon footprint that I'm leaving in the world is a lot bigger than the tiny ball of a balayage that I am putting on Mother Earth. Another myth of balayage is that it's only for blondes. And that is not true. I paint every level of hair from the darkest of dark to the lightest of light. But I say to you, everything as a colorist applies. When I am making a decision as to whether or not the look that I'm trying to achieve, what is that look, I have to be wise about how I go about it. So, the fact that you only paint blondes as balayage and that you only use foils on level 2s, 3s, 4s is not necessarily true. It ultimately boils down to the overall look in which you're trying to create. So in summary, there are a lot of myths about balayage. But I do want you to know that in the end, balayage is much more fun. It's much more profitable. And the timing it takes is a lot faster. So if you're running your business to its ultimate, full, maximum potential, you should get out there and try it. And if you're already doing it, good for you. Thanks for being a balayage believer and recognizing that the stroke of the paintbrush can ultimately help you paint your way to financial freedom.